Today's Tri-State PGA Junior Golf Minute is presented by Isley's. Okay, everybody, we have a very special guest joining us today, Steve Wheatcroft. And Steve, Western Pennsylvania, growing up, and we're looking forward to hearing a little bit about Steve's journey into professional golf and everything he's got going on. So, Steve, want to first and foremost thank you for taking some time to talk with us today.
Yeah, Bob, of course, excited to be on here. Thanks for including me.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. And Steve, I guess just to kind of get started, obviously growing up in the Tri-State PGA section, tell us a little bit about what it was like to grow up in Indiana and play junior golf.
Yeah, I was born in Indiana, Pennsylvania, but I was only there about 6 months, and my family moved down to Washington, Pennsylvania, just south of Pittsburgh, obviously. And we lived there for about 18 years or so until I went off to college. And but growing up in the area was great. It was, obviously it gave me access to a lot of different things, sports related. And I was one of those kids, I played them all. I played baseball, golf, football, basketball. I would ski, I'd play tennis. I mean, anything I could do outdoors was what I wanted to do. And slowly just started dwindling the sports down one at a time. And I don't know, there was something about golf that I just loved, and nobody could take anything away from me. You get what you earn, and it was not I liked the team concept, but I also liked that there was no politics involved in golf. If you went out and you shot 65, nobody could tell you any different, and you get to prove it to yourself. So that's kind of what differentiated golf from the other sports and made me enjoy it and love it so much, and that I could put as much work into it as however much work I wanted to put into it, I could, and I didn't need a team of 8 other guys out there to help me.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. You had the opportunity to go out and you knew what you wanted to do, and you were focused with that. So I think that's pretty cool. So, when, Steve, did you kind of get that, notion of, hey, this is something I want to do as a career?
Honestly, as weird as this sounds, I'd never really had that thought until maybe my senior year of college. I played okay in college. I went to Indiana University out in Bloomington, Indiana, and we had a decent team the first couple of years I was there. I redshirted my first year, and honestly, I wasn't very good. I barely got a spot. I walked onto the team, and I had to beg for that walk-on tryout. I wanted to go out there for the business school anyway, and I asked the coach, and he turned me down numerous times, and I think my persistence finally just paid off, and he got tired of hearing from me. So he gave me a kind of a 6-month walk-on tryout. And he loved my work ethic, and I kind of piggybacked off of a first-team All-American we had on the team. And whatever Randy did, I did, and I just kind of followed him around and tried to, emulate his work ethic, so to speak. And he kept me around for that first year and said, hey, look, come back, go practice over the summer. We'll give you another tryout in the fall. We'll see how you do. And I came back, and I ended up beating the first-team All-American in tryouts. And I remember when I went home the summer beforehand, and I won the Tri-State Amateur at South Point. It was my first real amateur event that I played, and I think I shot even par for 2 days, and that was good enough to win, and that completely caught me off guard. And I kept working that summer. I got into the Western Amateur and the U.S. Amateur, 2 of the biggest amateur events in the country. Didn't play great in them, but just being there and being in that atmosphere, just, when you play with better players, you slowly start to get better. Came back to Indiana. I had an okay career. I won once, and I was all Big Ten my last 2 years, but I still had no intention of turning professional. I was going to go back to probably Oakmont and hop on the Bob Ford train there and probably do the assistant professional routine. And then in my spring semester, we were playing with other guys that I've been playing with for 4 years, and I started asking them what they were going to be doing when they graduated, and they all kept saying, I'm going to turn professional. And I just remember my first thought was, at what? And they're like, oh, golf. And I'm like, well, I've been beating you for 4 years, and you're going to turn professional? And I said, maybe I should be thinking about this. So the more I thought about it, I was like, maybe I'll give it a try. And so that was basically my first inkling of maybe I should try to play some professional golf. And I stayed an amateur that summer, and because I wanted to play in the Palmer Cup matches at Latrobe with Mr. Palmer. That was a dream come true. I turned pro the next day, and I remember I had Q School on the horizon about 2 months out, and I didn't want that to be my first event as a professional, so I went to the Monday qualifier for the I think it was called the SEI Pennsylvania Classic back then. Then turned into the 84 Lumber. And so they had the Monday qualifier at Quicksilver, and I just went there just to get an event in with other professionals and see how it worked. And I shot 69 and ended up winning the qualifier and got into the PGA Tour event. So my first event as a professional was a PGA Tour event, which was wild. It was a couple weeks after 9/11, and it was a strange situation. But yeah, that kind of gave me a big introduction to professional golf and really wet the whistle, so to speak, as far as what was possible.
That's pretty neat. You go and you turn professional. You Monday qualify, shoot 69, and get into a tour event. That's really, really awesome stuff. Now, Steve, kind of going through your career, and talk a little bit about what it's really like out there in the trenches, out there, playing professional golf on the web now. Obviously, the Korn Ferry. Just kind of give everybody a glimpse of what it's like to be on tour.
On the big tour, or the journey to get to the tour? Because it's night and day.
Yeah, let's talk about the journey, and then we can talk about what it's like on the big tour.
Sure thing. So I can tell you that my first year I was playing on a tour called the Developmental Players Tour, and it was we toured through Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and basically you just lived out of your car. We were sleeping anywhere from 2 to 4 of us in a little small dinky motel room. They were not nice. I remember my mom always brings this up, that she called and said, hey, are you doing okay? And how's your budget holding up? And I told her, I was like, hey, I do this, I do that. I budget $50 a week for dinner. And she's like, $50 a week for dinner? I was like, yeah, I can go down to Subway, get a sandwich, a bag of chips, and a drink. It's like $7, do that every day. And at the time, it was the norm to me. I didn't think twice about it, and it completely freaked her out. But that's just, you didn't have any money, so you had to budget what you had and try to get as much out of it as you could, because all you wanted was more starts on these tours. And so I played those and some other tours for years, and then finally got my break in 2006. I got status onto the web.com tour, and that was great. That might as well have been the PGA Tour for me. And I had conditional status, and I didn't play great. I finished about 85th on the money list and was thinking about hanging it up. I didn't think I was good enough. And I said, I'll go to Q school one more time, and I'll see if I can get a full card out here, where I know I'll have access to a bunch more tournaments. And I ended up finishing 7th and got a PGA Tour card instead. So that was an eye-opener, and I knew I was in trouble and was going to learn a lot, but I was probably going to, it was the school of hard knocks for sure. Let's put it that way. But playing on the biggest stage in golf is something that's hard to describe, and you play in front of, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of fans a week. You're on national television. You have the opportunity to win millions of dollars every week. It's hard to find another job like that where it can be, the highs are so high and the lows are so low. Because when you're traveling and you're spending $3,000 to $4,000 a week or $5,000 a week, and you don't get anything out of it, you're basically paying $4,000 to go do your job, which people don't see when you're watching the Justin Thomases, the Jordan Spieth, the Ricky Fowlers. That life is glamorous, and that is a life that I never saw on the PGA Tour. I can promise you that. But it is, just to have access to all those possibilities is something you can't find in pretty much any other job.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, Steve, everybody sees the glamorous, of like you said, of Justin and Ricky Fowler, and everybody just kind of assumes that everybody on tour has that, has that same that same luxury. So I think it's interesting for folks to hear that and hear the stories in the on the tour. Steve, I kind of want to shift focus a little bit here and I want to talk about, the aspiring junior golfer and, someone that has some talent, is thinking about going on to play collegiately. What kind of advice do you have for them as they start to transition to that next phase in their playing career?
I'm going to go a different route with this, and then I'll come back to your point or your question, if you don't mind.
That's perfect. That's great.
My first point is going to be to the parents that are listening to this. And this is one of the biggest things I watched on tour, and it drove me nuts. Let your kids play golf. let them play golf, let them make bad swings, let them, work on their fundamentals, work on their mental attitude a little bit. But I've watched more parents ruin good junior golfers because they were so over the top on them. And it just wasn't fun, and the kids get burned out. And it just, let the kids play golf. Let them go do what they want to do. If they want to go play baseball for a little bit, let them go play baseball. They'll figure it out on their own. But you can't force a great junior golfer to be a great junior golfer. It's just the way it works. And I hate seeing kids now getting burned out because their parents are forcing them to go do this or forcing them to go practice, forcing them to play in events. Let them do what they want to do. It's their life. It's their sport. They want to, they'll understand at some point if they're not practicing, they're not getting much better. But the ones that do have that desire, you don't want to burn that fire faster than it needs to be burned. So that being said, as far as the junior golfers go, there's no secrets to it. Everybody's got some natural talents, and some kids are going to be naturally more talented than others, but I am the testament to the other side of it. Just work as hard as you can. And if you're weak in an area, find a way to make it stronger. And if you're really good at something, make sure it stays a very good strength for you. I was always a good chipper and putter. I made all my money in my career with my short game. I was never a great ball striker. I hit it straight and short, but I made a lot of putts, and I could get it up and down from pretty much anywhere. So people always ask me, you must work a ton on your putting. I'm like, no, that's probably the thing I work on the least. But when I do work on it, I make sure all my fundamentals are tightened up, and then I'm still a great putter. And then if I've gotten all that in order, then I go back over and start working on my weaknesses and try to get those. But I can't play good golf if I don't chip and putt it well. But I can play mediocre golf as long as I'm still doing that. If that goes, then my game's in trouble. So just to the juniors, I would say just keep working on fundamentals. There's no secrets. Just do as much as you can and enjoy the game for what it is.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Steve, one of the other things, obviously growing up in Western Pennsylvania and having access to playing, who were your role models or mentors when you, growing up?
As far as professional golfers or?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's good. Let's start there with professional golfers. Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Honestly, I never really watched a whole lot of golf when I was younger. I got involved in the game because when we would go to my grandparents' house, they loved Mr. Palmer. And every Sunday afternoon, they would play golf in the mornings, then come home. They had to turn on to see what good old Arnie was doing and if he was making his charge. So being a Western Pennsylvania boy, you kind of grow up with him being the god of the golf world, and rightfully so. But I never really had any huge – I obviously, grew up kind of in the Tiger era where I got to watch him do his thing. And, when I was in basically high school, he was going through his amateur career. And then when I got to college, he was always, a couple years ahead of me. So what he was doing was relatable for me in that, it was relatable and unrelatable, is that we were close to the same age. He's a couple years older than I am. But for him to be doing the things he was doing, and he's only 2 years ahead of me, was mind-blowing to me. But I grew up watching Tiger. I grew up watching Ernie. Phil was, breaking onto the scene, but it just Tiger kind of engulfed professional golf at that point. And if he was in the field, you had to turn on to see what was going to happen. And it was just amazing. And it's, the kids see a little bit of it now with his run at Augusta last year, obviously, but they didn't see the full dominance where it was week after week after week. And it was just mind blowing. His streak of 147 consecutive cuts or 142 consecutive cuts is something that will never, ever be touched again. And no one will get close to that number. The guy right now who's leading with the most consecutive cuts is at like 23 or something ridiculous. So to go 10 years without missing a cut, when you're sick, you're hurt, you make one bad swing, you do this stuff, that is mind blowing to me. That's how good and dominant he was. But he was probably, you can say role model, but you can't. I knew I could never replicate what he was doing or anything close to that, but it was just so fun to watch.
Yeah, it was that was about the same time, me growing up as well too, Steve. It was just watching him and just getting the opportunity to see him, and I can imagine just kind of seeing him in person and being inside the ropes with him was kind of a thrill at some points in time, just to kind of marvel at how good he really was.
Very much so. I've been out there. I played 7 years on the PGA Tour, and then had a bunch of other events in the other years where I'd still go out and Monday qualify to get in. And I don't get starstruck by too many guys out there anymore. There's a couple that still kind of get a little bit of the tinglies going, but when you see Tiger on the putting green, or you sit down and he's at the lunch table with you and things like that, it changes things for sure. And it's just, he has a presence and an aura about him. He still does. I mean, he's gotten a lot better as far as relating to the other players and opening up to the players, the media, whatever it might be. But it's still a complete aura, like nothing, like nobody else out there for sure. The standard line out there is, so and so might move the needle, but Tiger is the needle.
Yeah, there's no question. And, Steve, I certainly thank you for taking some time to talk with us today. I think you gave some interesting perspectives kind of on your career and, on what juniors need to be working on. And, I wish you all the best, Steve. And thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, everybody. That was Steve Wheatcroft sharing some thoughts with us, and we appreciate him taking some time. We want to thank Steve Wheatcroft once again for taking some time to talk to us about his journey and his thoughts about junior golf. Folks, want to remind you, coming up on Thursday, Penn State University men's golf team golfer Jimmy Myers will be on. Jimmy gives us some perspective about his career in junior golf and how he's progressing at Penn State University. So again, that's Jimmy Myers on Thursday. You've been listening to the Tri-State PGA Junior Golf Minute.